Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of our Inside Battlefield podcast. My name is Tom, community manager for Battlefield here at DICE. And today I am joined by Alexander Formoso, weapons game designer. Alex, I think this is your third time on the podcast.
This is my third time. First time being chained to my desk, but third time here.
Yeah, well, then we have a fancy, nice room today. But you are a regular. Anyway, how are you doing? And for folks who maybe tune in for the first time, if you can again introduce yourself.
So I am Alexander Formoso, and I am the weapons game designer of 2042. And that's it. That's about it.
Cool. So today is a new episode in May, and what we're doing this time around is providing some details about what's coming in Season 5. So throughout May, we'll have a few podcasts and blogs where we discuss some of the quality of life changes that will go live in the Season 5 update. And that's based on community feedback where they ask us like, hey, we would love to hear earlier what you're doing. So that's what we're starting with today. And the first subject, which I'm pretty excited about personally, and I think Alexander as well because he's smiling.
Yeah, I am.
Is vault weapons. And we had quite a few comments there to bring attachments to them.
Yeah, and that's exactly what's happening.
So that's what we're doing. So today we'll just talk you through an overview of the vault weapons, their history, how they came in the game, and the changes we're making to Season 5. So Alex, can we maybe start with a refresher on vault weapons for folks who are just tuning in? They might not be super familiar with what they are. So we started adding them into the game last year. Can you just give a quick recap?
So as of now, we have released more than 20 weapons, in addition to the Battle Pass weapons. And what's coming next is that those weapons are going to get completely reworked to have the, not full, but like a big range of the Battlefield 2042 attachments available on the Battle Pass weapons. They're going to be also available on the Vault weapons. And just to keep expectations tempered, they're not going to be like the full range of attachments. We made a selection of as much attachments as we could add on each weapon. And those constraints are based on what fits on the weapon, like if the weapon physically can have them or not. And in other cases, like some other weapons don't have rails in the positions that we put the attachments. So they can't have that type of attachment to use rails. We can use adapters in some cases. So there are physical constraints, like both in art and design of why we can't put everything on every weapon.
And like I would love to go into more detail that later where we kind of compare the vault weapons to the all-out warfare counterparts. But before we do so we now have over 20 vault weapons and there are more to come. And I think there was a good recap of where we came from with vault weapons, like how they came about. What have we since seen from the community since we first released them, their overall reception, and also the community feedback? What did we learn from players?
Well, so initially we had really good feedback because it was exactly what they were asking, right? Like, we want more weapons, here are more weapons. And we also have really good feedback with the cadence of them, as in like we release only a couple when a new season comes about. And then every major patch we release 2 or 3. So that's something that people have appreciated because they have something mid-season to keep grinding for and to keep enjoying, like to keep things fresh. So in that sense, it was a home run. But the biggest piece of feedback is that even if we do some tuning on them to make them competitive, the way they work, as in like the way the dispersion, like how much the bullets deviate from the center of the screen, and the recoil mechanics that those weapons have functions differently than the 2042 weapons. So in some cases, they feel different enough to not be able to compete with the all-out warfare weapons. And in other cases, is like it doesn't matter how much we bump the numbers up, they will never be able to compete because they lack attachments and some situational constraints. So yeah, that's basically the two big pieces of feedback that we got. Like it's something that people liked, but they require much needed tuning.
Yeah. So if we had to summarize the vault weapons versus the all-out warfare counterparts, they cannot do the same things.
Yeah.
Because they didn't necessarily. We weren't able to fit the same attachments on them, and in like 1-to-1 scenarios, I mean, they weren't always losing, but they had difficulty competing in most cases because the all-out warfare weapons are obviously like a newer generation weapons, so we needed to bring the vault weapons on par with them, and the work on that is starting in season 5 with adding vault weapon attachments. Sorry, adding all-out warfare attachments to the vault weapons.
Correct.
Yeah. What does the rollout look like? And during the season itself, what other balance changes can we expect? So let's start from the top and just talk a little bit more about the attachments themselves.
All right. So the first thing is that what can you expect? You can expect that the weapons are going to have most of the original attachments that they have removed. There are some scopes that we're keeping for the sake of both nostalgia and because we really like the scopes, like the ACOG, we're keeping that. Mm-hmm. We're keeping the Holo. Like there are some that we're keeping on those weapons, but most of them, like the original PSO scope and others, we're removing them from them. As to why is because we're adding the newer scopes, and in some cases the reticles or the size of the scope on the screen, it doesn't look as good as the ones that we're going to put from All-Out Warfare. And we see no point in having like 2 4x scopes, 2 3x scopes. So the rule of newer wins in that case.
Yeah.
So that's on scopes. Then on muzzle devices, most weapons will have all the muzzle devices that you know and love. As of on their barrels, I think we selected one grip, and that is like the one that you're going to have in most cases because it's the one that universally fits the best. Also your bipod, your flashlights, your lasers. Some weapons are going to get multiple lasers. And in the ammo department, we are releasing... Basically, we are erring on the side of cautious. I don't know if that... Yeah, that's how you say it, right?
Erring on the side of caution.
Caution. Yeah, you err on the side of caution. And we are releasing only extended magazines at first.
Okay.
And then if we notice that our target of adaptability of those weapons are not met, we will consider adding like other curves, like close combat quarter ammo or subsonic ammunition to the weapons that require it. But as of release, they're only going to have extended magazines.
Okay.
And so that's basically what to expect in which attachments you're going to see in these weapons.
So to summarize, we are not adding all of the all-out warfare attachments and copy-pasting them onto the vault weapons because, first of all, it doesn't fit and it still doesn't always make sense. Mm-hmm. But we are selecting the best ones that are suitable for those vault weapons so they can compete with the all-out warfare arsenal.
Yep.
Okay, cool. So you explained like what the caveats are there. And then what does the rollout look like? So I believe we will start with the Season 5 update, rolling out those changes.
That is correct.
But we don't immediately bring all of them in. So
no.
I think there's a...
So this is something that we're doing both for our sake and for the player's sake. If we release everything in one go, right? First, there is problems that could arise.
Yep.
And like we said, we have released over 20 weapons. We don't want to, like if something really bad happens, then we don't want that to affect the whole 20 weapons that we release. So in this case, it's in 5.0 update. You're going to have all the Vault attachment, all the Vault assault rifles and the Gold Sniper Magnum. So those are going to be on 5.0. And then the rest of the weapons are going to be split between the updates 5.1 and 5.2.
Okay. So we don't want to talk very specifics about what is in those updates, but at least for the seasonal update itself. Yeah. So the 5.0 update, you can expect assault rifles and...
5.0.
5.0, yes.
For 5.0, you can expect the assault rifles and the Sniper Magnum. And then the rest divided between the other updates.
Later. Thank you. And then... Another point is, you already touched upon it, but that also means we would need to do some balance passes for the vault weapons
That is correct.
as well. So can you speak a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so assault rifles and the sniper magnum, they come first, both because we released them the earlier, like that was also our first release. But also because it's the weapons that have received the most tuning over the time, right?
Yep.
So if we remove everything from the M16, for example, the base M16 as it is right now, we consider it to be in an okay place in the sandbox. So for us, it's less scary to release them than the rest. So with them out in the wild, we'll get data and feedback on how to tune them, put them in line with the rest of 2042. Now that they share the same attachment pool, this will give us feedback not only on the weapons, but also on how the attachments work with different rule sets of how these weapons were built. And then when we roll out the other weapons, in some cases, you will see that these weapons will roll out already with their balanced passes on top of them. And in other cases, you can expect them shortly after release.
Yeah. Do you have some examples of balanced passes already in mind that you can share with us? Something that we know we had to look out for based on player feedback, maybe?
Yeah. In general, I can tell you that like spread mechanics on those weapons was pretty different than 2042.
Okay.
And we also know that 2042 needs some changes, like the weapons on 2042 need some changes regarding dispersion and spread. But we know that we need to bring the vault weapons in line with them.
Okay.
So that's in general, right? And more in specifics, I'll say, for example, the MTAR-21 had a lot of like recoil adjustments because it's like super different to the AK or to the N16, stuff like it we have. So yeah.
Okay, cool. And I guess, what are your expectations? Because it's not a change. These changes we're making is basically the number one feedback we had from players since we introduced vault weapons. So first of all, personally, I'm very happy. And I can't speak for you, but I think you are probably as well, that we can finally start giving these changes to players because they've asked for it for quite a while. So looking forward to Season 5 when the first changes start happening. How do you see it playing out? What are your expectations?
So I'm very, very excited about it.
Yeah.
I really want to see it out in the wild.
Okay.
Because it's both a win in terms of like something that we should have done from the beginning, and it's something that shows that like we can have an idea of how stuff should be released, and then based on feedback we can adjust. We can see like, we had a direction and you don't like that direction or you disagree, and then we can see your argument, because it's not that like every time that the players disagree with something that we do, we're gonna do what they say, right? It's more about, we understand their point, we understand where they're coming from, we take the steps to like measure, okay, how much time, effort, work, who's gonna do it, will need to be done to do that, and if it's possible, then we do. In this case, for example, to bring it out in the wild in Season 5, we had to sacrifice the vault weapons coming in patch 4.2, where we didn't release any, right? Because we needed to do the work in preparation for this.
Yeah. Which, by the time you're listening to this podcast, I believe update 4.2 came out in the previous week.
Yes.
So, like, you're probably playing that now if you're listening to this. But that's the reason why we didn't add vault weapons in that update, because we did see some feedback on that as well.
Yep.
Players expect the rollout now for vault weapons in most updates, but I believe it was more important for us as a team to ensure we can make this big change happen, because it's just the number one feedback item.
And it was because when we took the decision of like, okay, so let's do this, it made no sense to keep working on the vault weapons for 4.2, because it's like, why are we going to release them and then like a month after that we're going to completely rework them? Like it makes no sense. So like let's put our eggs in the correct basket.
That's a nice way of saying it. Yeah. Cool. So I think that was a good overview so far, but there's more.
Yeah.
There is more.
If you call now.
I think universal weapon skin. So that's another big area of feedback. So obviously, when we talk about customization for vault weapons, it can mean two things. First of all, it's the customization of like which attachment you want to use, which we just covered, but also how your weapons look based on skins. And I believe we have some cool news there. So Alex,
as of as of season 5, all of the vault weapons will be compatible with the current roster of universal skins available in the game.
that is exciting.
Yeah.
So, no, I'm super excited we get to share that news now. Like we did a live stream last week, and we actually had a few of these questions, and I was like, I want to say this right now. I really want to share, but I couldn't then, and now we can talk about it. So yeah, folks, to you listening, we know this is something you really wanted in game, so we're happy that we can roll that out. So just to summarize those two main things, we're bringing all-out warfare attachments to vault weapons, and the vault weapons in Season 5, in the Season 5 update itself, will immediately get access to all universal weapon skins.
Correct.
For all the current available vault weapons.
Mm-hmm.
So
all of them.
Yeah, that's great. So that's something we were able to roll out immediately. And then the vault weapon attachments will roll out over the Season 5 updates. Yep. So that's pretty cool.
It was a mountain of work, but now vault weapons will not only perform their best, they will also look their best.
That's a nice way of saying it. I really like that one. But yeah, like look, we have over 20 vault weapons in the game now, so it wasn't super easy to make that work happen. It took us quite a while to get there, because it's a lot of changes we need to make per individual weapon to make sure everything fits right, to make sure it looks right. We're excited to get that into your hands during Season 5. But some other things I would love to talk about is just some general balance specific examples that we can expect.
So on what you can expect from balance in the vault weapons is that you can expect more versatility, not necessarily more power. The idea is that we have some weapons that we know they compete really good with 2042 weapons, and we have others that we need more data after the attachment to see where they land. Our plan is to keep our eyes open and try to keep tweaking them during Season 5. And see when we have the whole roster, see if we need to like target individual adjustments to a couple of outliers, or just do like a blanket pass of like all this type are going to receive something. So that's important in vault weapons. And as for 2042 all-out warfare weapons, then there's a couple of feedback pieces that we got, like the loudest ones. One is related to the G57, where we know about its performance. And when we started receiving the feedback, we noticed from the data that this feedback was coming mostly from like the top percentile of players, where we saw like an increase or an exclusive usage of the pistol, of the sidearm. But once that usage statistics started to trickle down onto other skill groups, that's when we got like a little bit worried, and this is where we're doing like a targeted feedback, like a targeted change on it. The change is mostly related to its burst mode, where we feel it basically outpaces any other sidearm when it's like that. And we don't want to just nerf it into the ground, because this is supposed to be like the beginner friendly, like the first sidearm that you get. This is your entryway into the world of 2042. So it's not fair that it's not good. So what we're doing is adjusting the burst mode so it's not a better alternative to like the base weapon, right? It needs to be like a super short range panic mode. please help me. And in that sense, it should be worse than the Super 500, right? Because that's the ultimate short range. So yeah, you're getting that change. And also we're also doing an adjustment on the RM 68. Mostly because we knew that it was going to come out powerful, and we wanted it to be powerful. We wanted like, hey, the SFAR is like the most big, or it was the most big assault rifle. So we wanted the RM with its fire rate to drop into that kind of
Something
segment.
to compete with.
Yes.
Okay.
But it came out too strong. So it's going to receive like a couple of adjustments to bring it in line with the rest.
Okay, cool. So I feel these two weapons are items we've received a lot of feedback on from the community. So
Correct.
even though they are not vault weapons, I think we just wanted to drop that in here today to, for those listening, to already give you a heads up that yes, we are looking into these two weapons and some changes to be expected. Cool. So I think that was a nice little, quite a short discussion about some of the changes that you can expect for vault weapons in Season 5. During the month of May, we'll have a few of these podcasts, as I mentioned earlier. You can expect some blogs that also detail what we discuss here. And in some cases, we can show a little bit more of what that looks like, because obviously we're talking in a podcast right now, so we can't really show anything. So if you prefer reading, keep an eye out for those blogs as well. They will always go out in the same week as the podcast for that same subject. And from my end, I'm just very excited that we get to show you or talk to you, tell you as listeners what's coming in Season 5 in terms of quality of life changes.
Yeah, it's going to be a great season.
Yeah, I think I'm personally very excited about the season itself. So in terms of like Season 5 weapons, Alex, obviously we can't really talk about it today. Was there anything you want to share?
So there are, of course, of the new weapons that we're going to release, and this is me being super careful about what I say. One of them in particular, it's the studio's favorite, and it has a 50 on its name.
Okay.
And that's all I'm going to say about it.
Nice little hint.
Yes, people are going to have to figure that out.
And it's like we know our players love this one as well.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So
it's a returning weapon.
It's a favorite. So yes, very excited to get into your hands.
Yeah.
Looking forward to seeing all the guesses go out.
Absolutely.
So, do we want to, before we end today, do we want to grab a cookie? Because we do usually eat some cookies on the show.
That's the only reason why I sign up for this.
Dude, you're not the first one to say that to me. Like, way too many tell me like, hey, you want to, I can be on a puzzle. Okay, but are there cookies? I'm like, yes, there are cookies.
Of course.
Don't you want to spend time with me though?
No.
Let's do a live unboxing of the cookies. Yeah, that one.
All right, let's see. What do we have here today? We have pralinkaka.
We don't have any Swedish speakers here with us now because it's just you and me, so I don't actually know what that means.
Well, this is a fancy Swedish word for chocolate chip cookies. So, this is just, you want to?
Yeah, the lore of the cookie.
There is no lore here. It's just a chocolate chip.
It's just chocolate chip.
Yep.
It's good. It's tasty. Let's see.
It's good.
Do you remember the other cookie we had a while ago that was so dry that we couldn't speak anymore? We all had to drink some water.
The whole day I was dehydrated. I just kept drinking water and I wasn't going to the bathroom for like the entire day.
The cookie was good though.
It was like a water deficit.
Yeah. Thoughts on this one? It's nice and crumbly, is that the word?
Yeah, it's crumbly. It's sweet. It's nice. The chocolate is too sweet for my taste, but it's good. It's a really good cookie. And it's not actively dehydrating me, so that's a bonus.
Yeah, we still have our fluids after eating this cookie. Cool. Great. So, folks, thank you again for listening in today. We hope you also enjoyed the final cookie segment.
See, this is why usually we have like 3 people in the podcast, so one can eat the cookie while the other 2
Yeah,
talk.
the other speaks instead of just...
Now we were just both of us choking on the cookie to see who can come back and speak first.
Cool. So, Alex, thank you again for joining me. You're a regular on the podcast. Always fun. Appreciate it.
Thank you
for your time. Folks, I hope you enjoyed listening to this one. Reach out to us on socials at Battlefield and on podcast@battlefield.com if you have questions, if you have some cookie recipes you want us to try out. Yeah, please reach out. We'll be back next week with another episode and catch you in the next one. Cheers. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.